The night my wife asked for space, she did not cry. That was the part that scared me the most. Emily stood in our kitchen in Dallas, her arms folded tight across her chest, like she was holding herself together. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the sound of my own breathing. I kept waiting for her to yell or break down or say something that I could fight against, but she did none of that. She just looked tired. She told me she loved me, but she felt lost. She said she did not know who she was anymore. She said being married to me felt safe, but it also felt small. When she said that word, small, it felt like someone pressed their hand against my heart. I asked her what that meant. I asked her if there was someone else. I asked her if I had done something wrong. My voice sounded strange in my own ears. She shook her head every time. No one else. No big fight. No betrayal. She just needed space. Space from what? I asked. From me. I laughed when she said that. Not because it was funny, but because I did not know what else to do. We had been married for 5 years. We met in Austin when we were both 23. I was the quiet guy who fixed computers for a living. She was the bright girl who worked at a small art gallery and talked about dreams like they were real things you could hold. We were never the couple who fought in public. We did not throw things or slam doors. We held hands at the grocery store. We stayed up late on Sundays watching old movies. We talked about having kids one day. I thought we were fine. I thought love like ours did not just fade. But that night, Emily packed a small suitcase. She said she was going to stay with her friend Rachel for a few weeks. She kissed my cheek before she left. Not my lips, my cheek. Like I was someone safe, but distant. When the door closed behind her, the house felt bigger and colder at the same time. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door, waiting for her to come back in and say she changed her mind. She did not. The first week without her felt like walking through fog. I went to work. I came home. I ate dinner alone at the table we had picked out together. I slept on my side of the bed and stared at her empty pillow. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a message that said she missed me. She did text. Short messages. She said she was okay. She said she needed more time. She said she hoped I understood. I told her I did, even though I did not. Every night, I replayed our last few months in my head. I tried to find the moment when things started to change. Maybe it was when I started working longer hours. Maybe it was when she stopped talking about her art. Maybe it was when we stopped really listening to each other. I wanted to fix it. I am the kind of man who fixes things. Broken screens, slow laptops, loose wires. But I could not fix this. I did not even know where the damage was. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. One evening, I came home from work and found her old sweater still hanging on the hook by the door. It smelled like her. Soft and sweet. I held it in my hands longer than I should have. That was the first time I let myself cry. I called her that night. I told her I missed her. I told her the house felt wrong without her laugh in it. I told her I was willing to do anything. Therapy, a trip, a fresh start in a new city, anything. She was quiet for a long time on the other end. Then she said she loved me, but she did not know if love was enough right now. That sentence broke something inside me. After that call, her texts became even shorter. Sometimes she did not answer at all. Rachel stopped replying to my messages too. I started to feel like I was losing her in slow motion, like watching someone drift away in the ocean while I stood frozen on the shore. Then came the night that changed everything. It was raining hard outside, the kind of Texas storm that shakes the windows and fills the streets with water. I was sitting on the couch with the lights off, listening to the rain hit the roof. I had stopped trying to distract myself. I just let the silence sit with me. Around midnight, there was a knock on the door. At first, I thought I imagined it. No one visits at midnight in my neighborhood. I sat still, listening. Then it came again. 3 clear knocks. My heart started pounding. I got up slowly and walked to the door. For a second, I hesitated. I do not know why. Maybe I was afraid of bad news. Maybe I was afraid of hope. I opened the door, and there she was. Emily stood on my porch, soaked from the rain, her hair plastered to her face. She was not holding a suitcase. She was not smiling. Her eyes were red like she had been crying for hours. For a moment, we just stared at each other. The porch light made her look both familiar and distant, like someone I used to know. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. Her hands were shaking. I felt 100 emotions crash into me at once. Relief, anger, love, fear. Before I could speak, she stepped forward and whispered my name. And I knew this was not just a visit. Something had happened. Something that was about to change our lives forever. When Emily said my name, it did not sound like the calm voice I remembered. It sounded broken, like she had been holding everything inside and it was finally spilling out. I stepped back so she could come in. The rain followed her for a second, dripping onto the wooden floor. She stood in the middle of the living room, hugging her arms around herself like she was cold, even though the heater was on. I closed the door slowly and just looked at her. I wanted to ask 100 questions. Why are you here? Are you coming back? Is this goodbye? But none of those words felt right. She looked around the house like she had not seen it in years. Her eyes stopped on the framed photo on the wall, the one from our trip to Santa Monica. We were both laughing in that picture, the ocean behind us, her head resting on my shoulder. For a second, I saw something soft in her face. Then she looked at me again. I made a mistake, she said. Those 4 words hit me hard. I had imagined her saying that so many times over the past few weeks. I thought if she ever did, I would pull her into my arms right away. But standing there in front of her, I felt frozen. What kind of mistake? I asked. She swallowed and walked closer to me. I could see how tired she looked, dark circles under her eyes, her lips pale. This was not the confident woman who had walked out of our kitchen 3 weeks ago. I thought I needed space from you, she said, but I think I was really running from myself. I did not know what to say to that. I had spent every night blaming myself, thinking I had failed her, thinking I had not been enough. Hearing her say this made my chest ache in a different way. She told me staying with Rachel did not make her feel better. She said at first it felt free. No routine, no shared schedule, no quiet dinners. But after a few days, the freedom felt empty. She said she missed the sound of me making coffee in the morning. She missed how I always left one light on for her when she worked late. She missed the way I looked at her like she was the only person in the room. When she said that, I had to look away. I did not want her to see how much that meant to me. I kept thinking if I stepped away, I would figure out who I am, she said. But every time I thought about my future, you were there. The rain outside started to slow down. The house felt quiet again, but not the cold kind of quiet, the kind that waits for something important. I walked to the kitchen and grabbed a towel. I handed it to her. Our fingers brushed for a second. That small touch sent a rush through me. I had missed her more than I wanted to admit. She dried her hair slowly and kept talking. She said she realized she had been scared. Not of me, not of marriage, but of being too happy. She said everything felt stable and safe, and part of her wondered if something that good could really last. I almost laughed at that, but I held it in. I had the opposite fear. I was always scared of losing her. I guess we were both afraid, just in different ways. So why tonight? I asked. She looked down at the floor. Because I almost lost you. My heart jumped. What do you mean? She took a deep breath and sat down on the couch. I sat across from her, leaving a small space between us. That space felt heavier than the rain outside. She told me that earlier that evening, she had gone out with some friends from Rachel's office. She tried to act like everything was fine. She laughed at their jokes. She smiled when they asked about her break. But inside, she felt like she was floating somewhere far away. Then she saw a couple across the room. They were arguing quietly, but the man kept reaching for the woman's hand, like he was afraid she would walk away. The woman finally grabbed his hand and held it tight. Emily said something about that moment hit her hard. She realized that if she kept drifting, one day she might look up and I would not be there reaching for her anymore. I kept thinking about you sitting here alone, she said. I kept thinking about how patient you have been. And I was scared that if I waited too long, I would come back and the door would be closed. Her voice cracked when she said that. I wanted to tell her that I would always open the door for her, that I would wait forever if I had to. But I stopped myself. Because part of me was tired too. Part of me had been hurting quietly every single day she was gone. Emily, I said slowly, you did not just need space. You left me standing here not knowing if I still had a wife. Tears filled her eyes. She nodded like she knew that was true. I know, she whispered. And I hate myself for that. The room felt smaller now, not because it was tight, but because everything was out in the open, the fear, the pain, the love. She stood up and walked toward me again. This time, she did not stop with space between us. She came close enough that I could feel the warmth from her body. I am not here to say everything is magically fixed, she said. I am here because I do not want to run anymore. I want to try. With you. For real. Her hand reached for mine. It trembled when it touched me. For a second, I closed my eyes. I felt her fingers wrap around mine, familiar and soft. My heart wanted to pull her in and forget the last 3 weeks ever happened. But my mind whispered something else. What if she changes her mind again? What if this is just another moment of fear? I opened my eyes and looked at her. The porch light was still on outside, casting a faint glow through the window. The storm had passed, but the air still felt heavy. You cannot just walk in and out of my heart whenever you get scared, I said quietly. Her grip tightened. I am not planning to walk out again, she said, unless you tell me to. That sentence hung between us, and for the first time since she left, I realized something. The next move was not hers. It was mine. When Emily said the next move was mine, I felt the weight of it settle deep inside my chest. For weeks, I had felt powerless. I had waited for her calls, I had waited for her texts, I had waited for some sign that she still wanted us. Now she was standing in front of me, her hand in mine, telling me the choice was mine. I looked at her face, really looked at it. The woman I loved was right there. Not perfect, not calm, not sure of everything, but real, honest, afraid. Just like me, I pulled my hand away gently, not because I did not want her, but because I needed a second to think clearly. She noticed. I saw the fear flash in her eyes, and it hurt to see that look. I am not pushing you away, I said. I just need you to understand something. She nodded quickly. When you left, I continued, it felt like the ground disappeared under my feet. I kept asking myself what I did wrong. I kept thinking maybe I was boring, maybe I was too simple. Maybe you needed someone bigger, louder, more exciting. She shook her head, but I kept talking. I needed to say it out loud. I felt like I was standing outside my own marriage, waiting for permission to come back in. The room was quiet, except for the soft drip of rain from the porch roof. Emily's eyes were full of tears now, but she did not interrupt me. I love you, I said. That never changed. But love cannot be something that disappears every time one of us feels scared. Her shoulders dropped, like she had been holding them tight for days. You are right, she said softly. I was selfish. I thought I was protecting myself, but I was hurting you. She took a step back and sat down again on the couch. This time, she did not try to reach for me. She just looked at me like she was ready to hear whatever I had to say. That made it harder. I walked to the window and looked outside. The street was wet and shiny under the streetlights. Everything looked washed clean, but I knew storms leave damage you cannot see right away. I do not want a wife who runs when things feel too calm, I said, and I do not want to be a husband who keeps quiet just to keep the peace. She listened carefully. Maybe we both got too comfortable, I added. We stopped talking about the hard stuff. We stopped checking in with each other. We acted like love was enough without effort. When I turned back to face her, she was already nodding. I was scared to tell you I felt restless, she said. I thought you would think I was ungrateful. You give me so much. You are steady and kind. I did not want to hurt you. You hurt me more by leaving, I said gently. She pressed her lips together, trying not to cry. I walked over and sat beside her. Not too close at first, just enough to feel her presence. We both stared straight ahead for a few seconds, like we were gathering courage. Why did you not tell me before it got this bad? I asked. I did not know how, she admitted. I thought maybe the feeling would pass. Then it got louder, and instead of talking to you, I ran. I understood that feeling more than I wanted to admit. I had ignored signs too, the night she went quiet. The way she stared out the window sometimes. I told myself she was just tired. I chose comfort over truth. Are you back for good? I asked. She turned to face me fully now. I am back because I want to build something stronger, she said. Not because I am afraid of being alone. Not because I feel guilty. I am back because I choose you. Those words settled deep inside me. I searched her face for doubt, for hesitation. I did not see it. You choose me, I repeated. Yes, she said, every day, if you let me. Something inside me softened, not because the pain disappeared, but because she was not hiding anymore. She was not pretending everything was fine. She was standing in the mess with me. I reached for her hand this time. Then we do this differently, I said. No more silence when something feels wrong. No more pretending we are perfect. If you feel lost, you tell me. If I feel scared, I tell you. She squeezed my hand tightly. I promise, she whispered. I felt the tension in my body slowly ease. For the first time in weeks, I felt like we were on the same side again. Then she did something that caught me off guard. She slid off the couch and knelt in front of me. At first, I thought she was joking, but her face was serious. I need you to forgive me, she said. Not just tonight, not just with words. I need you to truly forgive me, because I do not want this to sit between us forever. Seeing her like that broke something open in my chest. I did not want her on her knees. I wanted her beside me. I stood up quickly and pulled her to her feet. Before I could think too much, I wrapped my arms around her. She melted into me like she had been holding herself together for too long. I felt her hands grip the back of my shirt. I felt her shoulders shake as she cried. I forgive you, I said into her hair, but we're both going to work for this. She nodded against my chest. We stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other in the quiet living room. The storm was gone now. The air felt fresh through the open window. For the first time since she walked out of our kitchen, I felt hope. But deep down, I also knew something important. Forgiveness is a start. Trust takes time. That night, Emily did not leave. After we stood there holding each other, we slowly pulled apart. Her eyes were still red, but there was something different in them now. Not confusion, not distance, just honesty. I do not want to go back to Rachel's, she said quietly. I looked at her for a long moment. 3 weeks ago, I would have begged her to stay. Now I needed to be sure this was not just a wave of emotion. If you stay, I said, it means you are staying to work on us, not to hide from your fear. She nodded without hesitation. I know, she replied, and I am ready. We went upstairs together. The bedroom felt strange at first. The bed that once felt too big for one person now felt almost shy with both of us there. Emily walked to her side slowly, touching the dresser like she was reconnecting with something she had left behind. She picked up her pillow and pressed it against her chest for a second. I could see how much she had missed this space, too. I forgot how much this feels like home, she whispered. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched her. I realized something in that moment. Home was never just the walls or the furniture. It was the way we looked at each other, the way we chose each other every day. She walked over to me and stood between my knees. Her hands rested on my shoulders. There was no rush in her touch, no pressure, just warmth. I hurt you, she said again, and I am not going to pretend that goes away overnight. It does not, I answered honestly. She nodded. But I am here, she continued, and I am not going anywhere. I reached up and placed my hands on her waist. I felt her breathe in sharply at the contact. We had been apart for weeks, but the connection was still there. Strong, familiar, real. Then we start again, I said softly. She leaned down and kissed me. It was not the quick kiss she gave me the night she left. It was slow and full of everything we had not said. I felt the apology in it, the promise, the fear, the love. When she pulled back, Her forehead rested against mine. "I missed you," she whispered. "I missed you too." I admitted. That night, we did not talk about the future in big dramatic plans. We did not promise that we would never fight again. Instead, we lay in bed facing each other and talked about small things. The things we had ignored before. She told me she felt stuck in her job at the gallery. She said she loved art, but she felt like she was just watching other people chase their dreams. I told her I had been working late not because I loved it, but because I was scared of not being good enough. We listened, really listened. When she said she wanted to take classes again and maybe open her own small studio one day, I did not brush it off. I asked questions. I told her I believed in her. When I said I wanted us to have one night a week just for us, no phones, no work, she smiled and agreed. We made simple promises, honest ones. The next morning felt different. Sunlight came through the window and landed on her face. She was asleep, her hand resting lightly on my chest. For a second, I just watched her breathe. I thought about how close I had come to losing this. She opened her eyes slowly and looked up at me. "Good morning, husband," she said with a small smile. That word felt steady this time. Not heavy. Not unsure. "Good morning, wife," I replied. There was still work ahead. I knew that. Trust does not rebuild in one night. There would be moments when doubt tried to sneak back in. There would be days when fear whispered in both our ears. But something had changed. We were no longer running from the hard parts. We were standing in them together. Later that day, we cleaned the house side by side. It was not about the mess. It was about moving together again. She put her suitcase back in the closet. Not hidden, just stored. In the afternoon, she turned to me while we were folding laundry. "Thank you for opening the door last night," she said. I looked at her and smiled. "I almost did not," I admitted. She stepped closer and wrapped her arms around me. "I am glad you did." So was I, because sometimes love is not about never breaking. It is about coming back. It is about choosing each other again after the storm passes. That night, as we sat on the porch watching the sky turn orange over Dallas, she slipped her hand into mine, and this time, neither of us let go.